Welcome to Even Odds Warhammer Wednesday, and today we're going to learn how to paint. You might have noticed that Carly's not here today. We're going out on vacation soon, and so we're trying to get some videos so there's no lag in time. So it's just me today, sorry. She's stuck with me. All right, guys, so if you watched our last Warhammer Wednesday video, we talked about priming. So now today, I'm just going to show you how simple it can be to paint up your figures here. But before we get to that, I do just want to talk about a couple small things first, okay? And these are sort of the tips and tricks like last time, okay? So if you're an experienced painter, maybe this video is not for you, but hey, maybe it is too. Maybe you'll get a couple tips here that'll help you out. But really, this is aimed at beginner painters who are just getting started out and kind of feel daunted by everything, but want everything to look nice. Let's recap the priming really quick. So, right, we primed our Gene Stealer cult. We're just going to be working on Gene Stealer today. We primed him white. That's because a lot of this model is going to stay this white color, okay? And whatever color is going to be your primary color, you're going to want to prime that color if you can, all right? So we've got him primed white, and so there we go. He's ready to go. He's been set, dried, cured, and everything. So let's just talk about a couple things first. What paints to use. There's a lot of paints that you can use. I use the Citadel paints. That's not because I think that they're particularly good or anything. I also use Army Painter. I like Army Painter too. They're a little cheaper than the Citadel paints. And I've also used craft paints from time to time. I don't have a bottle of that with me here, but you just kind of your generic craft paint you find at the store. A lot of people will tell you that you can't use craft paints at all, but I'm going to tell you you absolutely can once you know what you're doing. Okay, once you know how to thin your paints down properly and you're used to painting 3D models like this, you can absolutely use craft paints to great effect. In fact, I'm going to put up on the screen right now, this is a Sylvaneth Tree Lord that Carly painted 100% in craft paints. You'll see it's actually a really awesome looking model. Just the whole thing looks great, and it's done 100% in craft paints. So once you know what you're doing, you absolutely can use craft paints. And in fact, in some situations, they might be easier than, say, than these. What I will say, though, that I love are the Citadel washes, okay? Or I'm sorry, shades, they call them. They're great. They're like a super thin down paint, and it's kind of like talent in a bottle, really. But so you can use any sort of paint that you want. Citadel, there's Vallejo, P3, that's Privateer Press, Secret Weapon, Minatures. There's a lot of paints out there. I personally won't vouch for anything besides Army Painter and Citadel. I like them. I use them. And then your generic craft paints, like I said, you can use them if you want. Cool. So that's that. So let's talk about brushes, right? I've got a Citadel brush here. I've got an Army Painter brush here. I've got a generic craft store brush. And you know what? They're good for different things. I personally think out of the three, I think Army Painter's brushes are really nice, especially for value. Citadel brushes are okay. They're not great. They're okay. They're a little overpriced for what you get. And then the generic craft store brushes, I mean, heck, if you're not expecting much out of them, then they're awesome for the price. I myself don't have anything nicer than these brushes. I don't think you need to go much nicer than the Army Painter brushes. I really do think that they're actually pretty darn good for the price. A lot of people online will tell you to get Winsor & Newton Series 7. I myself don't have any, but they are super highly reviewed. But I will say, if you're going to spend money anywhere, paints, other supplies, things like that, spend the money on the brushes and then keep care of them, okay? So you want to wash out your brush every time that you use it. So keep care of your brushes, they'll keep care of you. All right? And you're going to need different size brushes for different applications, okay? So doing a model this small is not the same as doing a big tank, right? So a big tank, you'll want a bigger brush. A small model, you'll want a smaller brush. So let's talk a bit about getting prepped to paint. A couple things I really like to do. You remember last video, the priming video, we talked about using sticky tack to put the models on the stick to prime them. We like to do a similar thing with wine corks. Carly and I just happen to have a lot of access to wine corks due to our jobs. So we just have a bunch and we can get, so what I like to do is, again, take your sticky tack here, right? Get yourself a piece, you know, fluff it up again. And basically you're just gonna stick your model to the wine cork, and that gives you kind of a handle to hold on to him. So there you go, stick it on there. And then the trick is to just twist it a bit, and then there you go, he's on there. Okay, now you don't have to use a wine cork. You can use an old paint bottle, works the same. Old pill bottles, if you have like, you know, like keep your aspirin bottles, stuff like that. And this just gives you a little handle to hold your guy on, so you don't actually have to touch the model while you're painting it. And it really helps too, because you can do things like hold him upside down if you need to get your brush into a weird spot. So yeah, do that. Second big tip is you're going to want to make yourself a wet palette, okay? Now this one I've already put together. This is just, I bought a generic palette from the craft store, and I've got paper towels and white parchment paper, okay? I'm not going to go huge into the details on how to do this. It's actually really easy. It's literally just laying a couple paper towels down, put the parchment paper over top, and then let the water soak in. And this gives a surface to put your paints so you can work it around with your brushes. And you can actually see on here, I've got multiple paints sitting here. They're all still wet. I haven't cracked this open for, I would say, more than a week. And these paints are still wet and fresh and ready to use, okay? The other thing you want to get is just a piece of paper towel to just blot your brush on. And I have a cup here that you're going to want to have filled with water. That's just to rinse your brush. And in fact, I didn't fill it up with water, so I'm going to go do that now. So there we go. All right, now this is not normally where I paint, but you're going to want to find a nice place where that you have good lighting, that you can set up nicely and just be, you know, comfortable. I like to play music or a podcast while I paint. But so let's get into it. I'm going to show you just a couple really quick and easy tips on how to get some actually really fun effects on your model. So let's do it. Okay, so first thing is we got to learn how to thin our paints, okay? So first we're going to take our little pot of paint here, all right? This is just a flesh shade, okay? And you're going to want to give it a good vigorous shake to mix up the paint and any pigment, all right? Then we're going to take it, okay? You can see here, let's see if we can get it on there. You can see there's a lot of paint in there in the bottom, all right? What we're going to do is we're just going to get a little bit of paint on our brush, take it and get it off onto our palette there. All right, now you're going to see here it's pretty thick, right? We don't want to put that directly on our model. So what we're going to do, we're going to dip our brush in the water just enough to get a little bit of it up, and then pull off a little bit here and just kind of thin it out. And the rule of thumb you want is about the consistency of milk. All right, now once we get, see how it's kind of, it pools up but then pulls itself together. That's what you want, okay? So now we're ready. We'll push this out just a bit so you can see the model here. So here we are. We've got our Gene Stealer cult, all right? And what I want to do is I just want to put this flesh shade down anywhere where I see flesh. Now this is not a whole lot because he's got gloves on his hand and stuff, but we do have his head up here that we want to paint. Okay, so we'll just do this and just pull it across, all right? And don't worry about getting it on other parts of him because we can always go back and clean that up in a bit. All right. So we're not real worried about getting it on his headband or anything. All right. And you'll notice that we don't have full coverage just yet. And that's okay, because what we want is multiple thin coats. We don't want one thick coat covering everything. We want to do multiple thin layers until he's fully covered, all right? Let's see if we can get him back in focus here. Let's pull back a bit. There we go. All right, so we're going to get back under here. Same thing. Don't worry about everything just yet. Just get the colors where you need them to be. All right. All right, and then we'll just go back over again. Okay. We've got a little bit more to do on this side of the face here. Okay, there we go. So there's his skin, first part done. We're gonna rinse off our brush here, and then I like to just dab it on the towel there. All right, we're good to go. And with that part's done. We want to get on to the next part. So we've got, next we're going to do right here, we've got these knee pads, the tabard, back pieces, stuff like that, okay? These are going to be the main color pop of our model, and those we're going to do in kind of a darkish purple color here, all right? So just to show it to you again, now see, this is the nice thing about the wet palette is you see I've got a ton of this flesh color still, but I can use this for my other models because it's not going to be drying out anytime soon. All right, so I got a little bit of my purple. I'm going to go to another spot here. We're going to put it down. We're going to dip our brush again and just thin out the paint a bit. All right. Now we've got our model again. Same thing. We're just going to come in here and just add in our purple. Okay. We'll do the tabard next. So see, this is where this handle comes into play, because now I can come in, I can hold him and get into all those little spots that I want. And again, I'm not worried about accidentally getting it on other parts of the model here, because we can go back in and clean this up pretty easily. Right, see, so we get our slowly get everything painted, and just take your time and be thorough. I like to do when possible is just to touch spots that I'm going to paint, so I can kind of plan out my color scheme as I'm going, just like that, so I know I've got these areas left to paint. Almost helps it become like a paint by numbers sort of thing. All right, so there's that. There's purple. Okay. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to do a bit of our sort of gloves here. Let me point with this. We're going to do like our gloves, this like pistol holster here, our boots, these bags, that sort of stuff. We're going to do in a brown. We're going to do a metal. Now I'm not going to show you all this because it's the exact same. All right, so there he is with all of our base coats done. Now he looks pretty okay, right? He's not like awesome. He looks interesting, but definitely better than just white. But he needs something else, all right? And this is where washes come in, okay? So we got a couple different washes here. We've got Flesh Shade. We've got Sepia, all right? And basically, so let's take Sepia, all right? What we're going to do is we're going to go over all the whites, browns, and metals with this. And what it's going to do is add shadows and contrast to the model, okay? So to apply, let's move this here so we can see a bit better. So to apply a wash, you don't have to thin these guys down at all, okay? So we just take that little bit there, see, in our pot, okay? We're just gonna dip our brush in, kind of wipe off the excess here. And then we're just gonna go, let me go to a spot so you can see it real well here. All right, and we're just gonna brush it in, okay? And you'll see immediately it's pulling out all those details there. okay? And you don't want a ton because you don't want to have it pool up on everything. All right, but just real light color there. And you can already see how it's adding plenty of detail. All right, and even on over here on the gun and the hands, just gonna get a little bit of everything on there. It's just gonna add some contrast, some shadows to our model. Okay. All right, so now all of a sudden, all those folds in the cloth are popping out. You can see things. Let's get a little bit back in there. And the reason that's so much thinner is it's formulated so that it just finds all those recesses, okay? Let's just brush in there, make that pop out a bit. See, now we can see that eyeball a bit better. Okay, and we'll just do the same thing. We're just going to do that exact same thing. We're going to use the flesh shade on that little bit of flesh, and we're actually going to use a blue wash over our purples to just kind of give them a different look. So that is everything washed. Now this guy has just got to dry, okay? So if you do that with every model, you're going to have a quick, nice looking force really in a matter of moments. All right, everyone, so that's our guy right there. We have to let him dry now. All right, so there's not much else you can do with him until he dries. But just a couple quick things I want to talk about before we sign off on this video. Patience, okay, right? It's a patient man's game painting these guys. Thin your paints. You know, there's plenty of videos online about how to build a wet palette, and that's it. Okay, we're gonna come back. If you do this with all your models. Get up to this stage with this, just base coats, and then some washes, and then come back next week, or not next week, 2 weeks from now. Come back 2 weeks from now, and you'll get yourself a video on highlighting. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back over, we're gonna keep this exact same model, and we're gonna go back over him with some brighter paints, to just really increase the contrast between the shadows on the model and the paints and the like raised ridges, okay? So, and then that's really gonna make him pop, okay? All right, so thank you so much for watching. If this helped at all, please give us a like. It really does help us out a lot in terms of visibility and stuff. Comment to us, you know, write down in the comments, you know, did this help? Do you have any questions about anything? We'll answer them for you. Or hey, maybe if you've got some tips and tricks that you want to share with the community, let us know in the comments, okay? We'd really appreciate it. We really do love the comments. We get really excited when we get them. And lastly, if you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And we're going to come at you every week, Warhammer Wednesdays and Tabletop Fridays. Warhammer Wednesdays, obviously, something to do with the Warhammer hobby. And Tabletop Fridays, something to do with board gaming or other tabletop gaming things. So thank you so much for watching, guys. We hope you had a good time. And we'll see you on the next one, okay? Bye!